A single dad walks into a powerful CEO's company with nothing but a toolbox and his little daughter beside him. When the CEO laughs at his simple drawing, she has no idea that the sketch could save her failed project and expose the truth behind a stolen design that once destroyed his life. Before we continue, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Callum Vale had promised his daughter he would only be inside the building for 10 minutes. That promise was already broken. Elsie sat beside him in the polished lobby of Whitlock Mobility, swinging her small sneakers above the marble floor, holding a paper cup of water with both hands like it was something precious. Behind them, glass walls rose 3 stories high, bright enough to make Callum feel like every worn thread in his jacket was being judged. He wasn't there for an interview. He wasn't there to impress anyone. He was there because the company had posted a same-day maintenance call for a jam service door, and Callum needed the money before rent came due. A woman in a cream blazer rushed past with 3 tablets tucked under her arm. 2 engineers argued quietly near the elevator. Words kept floating through the lobby. Prototype failure. Hospital demo tomorrow. Missing stabilizer file. Callum tried not to listen. He had trained himself not to get involved in rooms where people saw his work boots before they saw his brain. Elsie leaned closer. "Dad, why is everyone scared?" "They're not scared," he said softly. "They're solving something." But their faces looked scared. Callum almost smiled. Elsie noticed everything. Too much, sometimes. On a glass conference wall across from them, a digital render showed a pediatric mobility chair folding into a compact frame. It was beautiful, expensive, and wrong. Callum saw the flaw before he wanted to. The hinge carried weight from the wrong angle. Under pressure, the frame would jam. He looked away. Then the render rotated, revealing the side bracket. Callum's breath caught. For a second, the lobby disappeared. He was back in a rented workshop 4 years earlier, drawing through the night while Elsie slept in a car seat beside his desk. Back when his wife was still alive. Back when his design had a name, a purpose, and his signature in the corner. He reached for the only paper near him, the back of Elsie's museum flyer, and began sketching. Elsie watched his hand move fast. "You're doing the thinking face," she whispered. "Just fixing a line. You always say that before you forget dinner." He gave her a quiet look, and she covered her mouth, smiling. That was when Serena Whitlock entered the lobby. She didn't look like the cold CEO people whispered about online. She looked tired. Controlled, yes, but tired in a way that no expensive blazer could hide. Her dark hair was pulled back too tightly, and her eyes moved from the arguing engineers to the failed render on the wall. Then she noticed Callum's sketch. At first, she barely glanced at it. Then she paused. "What is that?" she asked. Callum folded the flyer halfway. "Nothing. Just a correction." One of the engineers stepped beside her. "He's the door repair guy." Serena's mouth curved slightly, not cruelly, but carelessly. "The door repair guy solved our hinge problem?" Callum felt the old sting rise under his ribs. The kind that did not come from one insult, but from years of being underestimated in clean rooms by people with cleaner shoes. Elsie's smile faded. Callum stood, calm but stiff. "I'll fix the service door and get out of your way." But Serena's eyes dropped to the half-hidden sketch again. The amusement left her face. Slowly, she stepped closer. "Open it," she said. Callum didn't move. "Please," she added, quieter this time. That one word changed the air. He opened the flyer. Serena stared at the drawing. The lobby noise softened around them. Her engineer leaned in, confused at first, then visibly shaken. "That brace pattern," Serena said carefully. "Where did you get it?" Callum looked at the render on the wall, then back at her. "I didn't get it from anywhere." Serena's voice lowered. "That design disappeared from our archive 3 years ago." Callum's jaw tightened. "No," he said. "It disappeared from me first." Elsie slipped her hand into his. For the first time since he entered the building, Serena Whitlock was not looking at his boots, his jacket, or the toolbox beside his chair. She was looking at him. Serena didn't ask him to repeat it. That told Callum she had understood more than he wanted her to. She turned to the engineer beside her. "Marlon, take the prototype offline. No one touches it until I say." Marlon hesitated. "Serena, the hospital demo is tomorrow morning. I know what day it is." Her voice stayed calm, but the room felt it. Not fear. Authority. Callum gathered Elsie's backpack from a chair. "I'm not part of this." Serena looked at him. "You might be the only person who is." That made him angry, though he didn't show it loudly. He had spent years learning that quiet anger lasted longer than loud anger. "You don't get to need me now," he said. A few employees nearby pretended not to listen. Serena's expression shifted. Not offended. Struck. You're right, she said. Callum wasn't ready for that. She nodded toward a private meeting room. 5 minutes. No legal trap. No performance. Just tell me what happened. He glanced down at Elsie. Elsie looked up at him with the worried seriousness only a child could have. Dad, did they take your drawing? Callum swallowed. Serena heard it. Her face softened. No, Callum said, though the word felt too small for the truth. Someone took the chance to finish it. They moved into the glass-walled meeting room, but Serena lowered the blinds before anyone could stare. That small action surprised him. It gave him privacy before he asked for it. Elsie sat with a tablet and a juice box Serena quietly requested from her assistant. Callum remained standing. The chair was originally called the Lark Frame, he said. It was for children recovering from spinal surgery. Not a luxury product, not a press release. Just something that could fold, lift, and support without making a kid feel trapped in a machine. Serena listened without interrupting. My wife, Nora, was a pediatric nurse. She hated how medical equipment made children feel small. After Elsie was born, we built the first sketches together at our kitchen table. His voice stayed steady, but his hand moved once toward his wedding ring, then stopped. He no longer wore it. Not because he had forgotten, because some grief became too heavy to carry on the skin. Mason Drexler, Serena said. Callum's eyes sharpened. Serena looked ashamed before she explained. He brought a partial design to our company after I became CEO. Said it came from an abandoned independent patent package. He claimed the original designer had walked away. Callum gave a humorless breath. I didn't walk away. My wife got sick. Bills piled up. My old partner handled the filing while I handled hospital rooms. And Mason was that partner. Callum nodded once. Serena closed her eyes for half a second. The suspense in the room wasn't loud. It was worse than loud. It was quiet enough to hear the building air vents humming above them. Mason is presenting the final version tomorrow, she said. Callum looked toward the covered prototype outside the room. Then tomorrow, a hospital board watches that frame jam under load. Serena's face changed. The CEO returned, but now there was something personal underneath. How sure are you? Callum picked up a marker and drew the hinge on the glass wall. One line, then another, then the pressure path. His hands moved with the painful grace of someone touching an old wound. If a child leans forward while the side rail is half folded, the bracket catches here. It won't collapse, but it will lock. The child panics. The caregiver forces it. The internal pin bends. After that, every unit becomes a liability. Serena stared at the drawing. This time, she didn't laugh. She looked almost afraid of how close they had come. Elsie's small voice broke the silence. Dad fixes things before they hurt people. Callum turned. Oh, it's true. Serena looked at the girl, then back at Callum. Something gentle passed over her face. Not pity, not admiration exactly, but recognition. You're not just asking for credit, she said. No, kayu mansirth. Credit doesn't help a child stuck in a chair. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Serena did something Callum did not expect. She opened the meeting room door and called across the lobby. Cancel Mason's presentation. Marlon froze. Cancel. Move the board meeting to the workshop floor. Tonight. Callum stepped forward. No, I have my daughter. I have a job to finish. I'm not getting dragged into a corporate fight. Serena faced him fully. I'm not asking you to fight for my company, she said. I'm asking you to help me stop my company from making your stolen work dangerous. That landed. Callum looked at Elsie. She was holding her juice box with both hands, waiting to see which version of her father would answer. The tired man who walked away from trouble, or the man who once believed his hands could make the world kinder. His voice came out low. Elsie needs dinner. Serena nodded immediately. Then we ordered dinner. And I stay with her. Of course. And Mason doesn't come near her. Serena's eyes hardened. He won't. Outside the glass, employees were moving now. Covers came off tables. Tool carts rolled out. The dead prototype was wheeled toward the workshop bay like a patient being rushed into surgery. Callum looked at the sketch on the glass. For the first time in years, his design was alive in front of him again. And Serena, standing beside him, no longer felt like the woman who had laughed. She felt like someone trying to make the laugh right. By 7 that evening, the workshop floor had stopped looking like a company department and started looking like a rescue room. Engineers stood around the half-disassembled prototype, sleeves rolled up, coffee going cold beside laptops. Elsie sat safely in a corner office with glass walls, drawing stars on a paper plate, while Serena's assistant kept her company. Every few minutes, She looked up to make sure Callum was still there. He always was. Callum worked quietly, refusing the spotlight even when everyone began watching his hands. He didn't speak in speeches. He pointed, adjusted, explained only what mattered. Move the brace 2 centimeters forward. That pin needs a softer release angle. No, don't strengthen the lock. Strength isn't the issue. Trust is. The chair has to respond gently when someone is scared. That line made Serena look at him. Trust is. For years, she had built her company around performance, investors, and deadlines. But watching Callum rebuild the frame, she realized he designed like someone who had sat beside hospital beds. He wasn't trying to impress a board. He was trying to protect a child he might never meet. Then Mason Drexler arrived. He came in wearing a tailored coat and a smile that disappeared the moment he saw Callum. For 1 second, nobody moved. Mason recovered first. Well, this is awkward. Callum didn't answer. Serena stepped between them, not dramatically, just firmly. Your presentation is canceled. Mason gave a small laugh. Because of him, Serena, he's a repairman. No, she said. He's the original designer. The room went silent. Mason's eyes flicked toward the glass wall, where Callum's corrected hinge drawing still stood in marker. His face tightened. You can't prove that. Callum reached into Elsie's backpack and pulled out an old folded envelope. The paper was softened at the edges, handled too many times over too many hard years. He placed it on the table. Inside were dated sketches, early measurements, Nora's handwritten notes, and a photo of a younger Callum holding Elsie as a baby beside the first wooden mock-up of the Lark frame. Mason stared at it. For once, he had no clean answer. Serena looked at the documents, then at Callum. There was anger in her eyes now, but not the reckless kind. The responsible kind. Marlon, she said, scan everything. Legal gets copies tonight. The hospital gets the truth tomorrow. Mason stepped closer. You'll destroy the launch. Serena didn't blink. Better than hurting people with a lie. That was the power shift. No shouting. No guards dragging anyone away. No room full of applause. Just a company choosing the harder honest path. Mason left before anyone asked him to. The next morning, the hospital board did not see a polished fake presentation. They saw Serena stand beside a tired single father in a faded jacket and admit the company had almost moved too fast. Then Callum demonstrated the corrected frame. This time, the chair folded smoothly. The brace held. The release worked with a soft click. Across the room, a young patient named Theo tested the side rail with cautious fingers. When it moved without trapping his hand, his shoulders relaxed. Callum saw that small breath of relief. That was worth more than revenge. Weeks passed. Mason faced legal consequences quietly, away from cameras. Whitlock Mobility delayed the launch, credited Callum publicly as the original designer, and offered him a permanent role leading patient-centered design. Callum said no at first, not because he didn't want it, because he was afraid to want anything again. Serena didn't push. She invited him and Elsie to visit the workshop on Saturdays instead. Slowly, those visits became routine. Elsie named every prototype like they were pets. Callum corrected sketches. Serena learned to ask before assuming. And somewhere between late coffee, shared design notes, and the way Serena began saving the blue chair by the window for Elsie, something quiet grew. Not a fairy tale. Something better. Respect. One evening, after the first finished Lark frame was delivered to the hospital, Serena found Callum outside under the soft glow of the parking lot lights. Elsie was asleep in the back seat, wrapped in his jacket. Serena handed him a small brass nameplate. It read, the Nora Vale Lark frame. Callum stared at it for a long time. His voice broke slightly. You didn't have to do that. I know, Serena said. That's why I wanted to. He looked at her then, really looked, and for the first time she saw him without the wall of grief between them. Thank you, he said. Serena smiled softly. For what? For looking twice. She stepped closer, careful not to rush the moment. I should have looked the first time. Callum glanced back at Elsie, then at the nameplate in his hand. Inside the car, his daughter stirred and smiled in her sleep. The final image was simple: a father, a daughter, a woman learning humility, and a design born from love finally carrying the right name. No one clapped. No one needed to. The quiet was enough.